The discovery. The Kryn Empire had existed for 12 million years. It was not truly an empire in the way humans understood power. It was something older and stranger. A coalition of 47 species who had agreed long ago that survival meant stability. Change was dangerous. Growth was reckless. The universe had rules, and those who followed them lived. Those who did not became dust scattered among the stars. The council chamber floated in the void between galaxies. It was a station built from materials that did not exist in normal space. The walls shimmered with colors that had no names. Inside, representatives from the oldest civilizations in known existence gathered in a circle of light. High Executor Varn of the Kryn spoke first. His species looked like towers of crystalline stone that pulsed with inner fire. He had lived for 80,000 years and had seen civilizations rise and fall like waves on an endless shore. "The archive has been opened," Varn said. His voice resonated through the chamber, felt rather than heard. "The Forerunners left us a message. We must decide what it means." The Forerunners were legend. They had existed billions of years ago, when the universe was young and wild. They were the first beings to achieve consciousness, the first to ask questions about existence itself. They had vanished without explanation, leaving behind only ruins and warnings carved in stone that would never erode. Ambassador Thelnara the Quilvin shifted in her containment field. Her species resembled large cats made of flowing silver liquid. They had been warriors once, 10 million years ago. Then they had chosen peace and never looked back. She had always wondered if that choice had been wisdom or cowardice. "What does the message say?" Thelnara asked. Varn gestured, and a holographic projection appeared in the center of the chamber. Ancient symbols glowed in the air, slowly rotating. The translation appeared beneath them in a language all council species could understand. When the universe grows cold and the old ones forget why they reach for the sky, a species will emerge from a world of water and stone. They will be weak in body and short in years. They will know nothing of the ancient ways. But they will carry within them the seed of impossible hope. They will not accept the boundaries of existence. They will challenge every law. They will break every limit. And in doing so, they will either destroy all that exists or remind the old ones why life is worth living. The chamber fell silent. 47 species considered the words. Some had existed for millions of years, others for mere hundreds of thousands. But all of them had reached a point where they no longer changed. They had found their place in the cosmos and stayed there. "A warning," said Commander Zal of the Breviks Collective. His species looked like masses of metallic tentacles that floated in tanks of liquid methane. "The Forerunners are warning us of a threat. Or a promise," Thelnara said softly. Varn's crystalline body flared brighter. "We have located the world mentioned in the prophecy. A small planet in the outer spiral arm of a minor galaxy. Third planet from a yellow star. The inhabitants call it Earth. They call themselves humans." Another hologram appeared. It showed a blue and green world wrapped in white clouds. It looked fragile and beautiful. The kind of world that should be protected, not feared. "They are primitive," Varn continued. "They have only just begun to explore their own star system. According to our projections, they should not achieve interstellar travel for another 800 years. But 3 days ago, one of their vessels appeared in the Draken sector. It should have been impossible." The council erupted in discussion. Voices overlapped in a dozen different languages and methods of communication. Far across the galaxy, Captain Elena Vasquez sat in the command chair of the merchant vessel Aurora and watched the stars drift past her viewport. She was 37 years old with dark hair pulled back in a practical bun and eyes that had seen too many empty spaces. She had spent the last 10 years hauling cargo between Earth's colonies, oxygen to Mars, water ice to the mining stations near Jupiter, medical supplies to the research outposts beyond Pluto. It was honest work. It was boring work. And Elena had convinced herself that boring was exactly what she wanted. "Captain, we have a problem." The voice belonged to James Park, her navigation officer. He was young and brilliant and had a habit of understating emergencies. Elena turned her chair. "Define problem." "Our sensors are picking up something ahead. Multiple somethings. They are not showing up on any registry. They are not responding to hails, and they are positioned directly in our flight path. Elena stood and walked to the sensor station. She looked at the screen and felt her stomach tighten. 12 objects hung in space ahead of them. They were massive, each one at least 3 times the size of Aurora, and their design was like nothing she had ever seen. Organic curves mixed with geometric precision, materials that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. James, tell me those are experimental ships from one of the colonies. I would love to tell you that, Captain, but I would be lying. The communication console suddenly came alive with a burst of static. Then a voice spoke. It used words Elena understood, but the accent was wrong. The rhythm was wrong. Everything about it was wrong. Vessel Aurora, you will stop your engines and prepare to be boarded. You have entered restricted space. You will be taken to the Council for judgment. Elena's hand moved to the emergency alert panel. This is Captain Vasquez of the Aurora. We are a registered merchant vessel out of Earth. We are carrying medical supplies to the research station at Proxima Centauri. We mean no harm. Your intentions are irrelevant. You are human. You will comply. The word human was spoken like a curse, like something dangerous that needed to be contained. Elena looked at her crew. James at navigation. Sarah Kim at engineering. Marcus Rivera at weapons, though their weapons consisted of 2 ancient mining lasers that had never been fired in combat. And young Tommy Chin at communications, fresh out of training and terrified. We run, Sarah asked. Elena shook her head. We cannot outrun ships that size. And if we try, they might destroy us. She took a deep breath. We comply, but we stay alert. The alien ship surrounded Aurora like predators circling prey. A beam of light shot out from the largest vessel and wrapped around the human ship. Elena felt the engines die. They were being pulled in whether they wanted to or not. 2 hours later, Elena and her crew stood in the council chamber. They had been transported by technology that made Elena's head hurt trying to understand it. One moment they were on their ship. The next they were standing in a room that should not exist. She looked around at the beings gathered in the circle. Some were beautiful. Some were terrible. All of them were alien in ways that made her feel very small and very young. High Executive Varn spoke. You are human. You are the species mentioned in the prophecy of the Forerunners. You are a danger to all life in the universe. Elena Blinkid. I am sorry, what? 4 billion years ago, the first conscious beings in existence left a warning. They said a species would come from a water world. A species that would threaten everything. You are that species. Sarah laughed. It was a short, sharp sound of disbelief. You think we are a threat? Look at us. We barely made it out of our own solar system. Half our colonies are struggling to survive. We have no weapons that could threaten ships like yours. You do not understand, Varn said. The threat is not what you're now. It is what you will become. The Forerunners were never wrong. Not once in 4 billion years. Elena stepped forward. She was shaking, but she kept her voice steady. So what happens now? You kill us? You destroy Earth because of something we might do. The council is divided, Del Nara said from her containment field. Elena looked at the silver liquid cat and saw something that might have been sympathy. Some believe you should be eliminated. Others believe you should be contained. We will offer you a choice. Varn's crystalline body pulsed with light. Return to your home system. Never leave it again. Your species will be confined to your small corner of space. You will live out your days on your worlds until your star dies, or refuse and face immediate destruction. Every human ship, every human colony, every human life will be erased from existence. The chamber fell silent. Elena felt her crew looking at her. She was just a cargo captain. She had never wanted to be a hero or a leader. She had just wanted to haul supplies and make enough money to retire somewhere quiet. But now she stood before beings that had existed for millions of years, beings that held the fate of her entire species in their ancient hands. And they were asking her to accept a cage. Elena thought about Earth, about the billions of people who lived there, people who dreamed of exploring the stars, children who looked up at the night sky and imagined possibilities, scientists who worked every day to push the boundaries of what was possible. She thought about her grandmother, who had told her stories about the first moon landing, about how humanity had looked at something impossible and done it anyway. She looked at High Executive Varn and smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was a smile of someone who had just made a difficult choice. "No," Elena said. The word hung in the air like a challenge. "You refuse?" Varn asked. His voice carried disbelief. "I refuse. You say, we are dangerous because we might threaten you someday. You say we should accept prison because ancient beings wrote a prophecy billions of years ago. But here is what I think. I think you are afraid. I think you have lived so long that you have forgotten what it means to take risks. I think you built your perfect stable universe, and the idea of something new terrifies you." Elena took another step forward. "So no, I will not accept your cage. Humanity will not accept it. If you want to destroy us, then do it. But we will not stop reaching for the stars just because you are too scared to remember why you once reached for them yourselves." Varn's body flared so bright that Elena had to shield her eyes. "You condemn your entire species with your arrogance." "Maybe," Elena said, "or maybe we remind you what you have forgotten." The council erupted in chaos. Species argued in languages Elena could not understand. Varn called for order, but the chamber was filled with conflict for the first time in thousands of years. Thelnara watched the human captain stand defiant before beings that could end her existence with a thought. And for the first time in 10 million years, the Quilvan remembered what it felt like to be brave. The prophecy had said the young ones would challenge every law and break every limit. As Thelnara watched Elena Vasquez refuse to bow, she began to wonder if perhaps the Forerunners had not left a warning at all. Perhaps they had left a gift. The impossible hope. The vote in the council chamber was 6 species for immediate destruction and 6 species for containment. High Executive Varn had never seen the council split evenly in his 80,000 years of life. Decisions were always unanimous. That was how the Kryn Empire had survived for 12 million years. Agreement meant stability. Division meant chaos. "We will reconvene in 10 cycles," Varn announced. His crystalline body dimmed with frustration. The humans will remain in custody until a final decision is reached. Elena and her crew were taken to a holding facility on the council station. It was not a prison in the traditional sense. There were no bars or locks, but the walls were made of energy that would kill them instantly if they tried to pass through. They had food and water and beds. Everything they needed except freedom. Sarah sat on one of the beds and put her head in her hands. "We are going to die because you could not just say yes." "We were going to die anyway," Elena said quietly. "At least this way we die standing up." "That is a terrible comfort, Captain." Elena walked to the energy wall and looked out at the station beyond. She could see other species moving through corridors that twisted in impossible directions. Some walked, some floated, some moved in ways that hurt to watch. "Do you really think we are dangerous?" Tommy asked. The young communications officer had been silent since they were captured. "I mean, look at them. They have technology we cannot even imagine. They have lived for millions of years. How could we ever threaten them?" Marcus stood up from where he had been examining the energy wall. "Because we do not think like them. Look at this prison. It is perfect, completely secure. But they built it assuming we would try to break out using force or technology. They did not consider that we might just wait and talk to them." Elena turned to look at him. "What do you mean?" "Every species on that council has existed so long they have forgotten how to adapt. They have procedures for everything, rules for every situation. But humans, we are good at improvising. We are good at finding solutions that should not work, but do anyway." James nodded slowly. "The prophecy said we carry impossible hope. Maybe that is what scares them. Not that we will attack them, but that we will show them they've been wrong about how the universe works." Back on Earth, the news of first contact had spread like wildfire. President Mitchell had addressed the world from the United Nations. She had explained the situation as clearly as she could. Humanity had met aliens. The aliens had threatened to destroy them, and Captain Elena Vasquez had refused to surrender. The response was not what anyone expected. There was no panic, no riots, No collapse of civilization. Instead, humanity did what it always did when faced with impossible odds. It got angry and it got to work. Dr. Marcus Chin stood in a laboratory deep beneath the Mojave Desert. He was 53 years old with gray hair and glasses that never stayed in the right position. He had spent his entire career studying theoretical physics that most people thought was nonsense. Faster than light travel, quantum manipulation, technologies that should not be possible according to everything humanity knew. "Show me the sensor data again," Marcus said to his assistant. The holographic display showed the moment when the alien ships had appeared. Marcus studied the energy signatures. The way space itself had been around the vessels. There were patterns there, mathematical relationships that almost made sense. "They are not actually faster than light," Marcus muttered. "They are folding space, creating shortcuts through dimensions we do not normally access. If we could understand the mechanism, we could replicate it." His assistant, a young woman named Dr. Yuki Tanaka, looked at him with tired eyes. "Dr. Chun, we have been studying this data for 6 days. We are not even close to understanding their technology. It would take decades, maybe centuries." "We do not have decades," Marcus said. He pulled up another screen showing news from around the world. Every major nation had mobilized their space programs. Private companies were offering resources. Scientists from every field were volunteering their expertise. The whole world is counting on us to find a solution. What if there is no solution? What if we are just too far behind? Marcus smiled. It was a tired smile, but it held something that looked like hope. Humanity has a long history of doing things we were told were impossible. We split the atom. We walked on the moon. We cured diseases that were supposed to kill us all. Maybe we cannot match their technology, but maybe we can find a different path. In orbit around the moon, the defense fleet was assembling. Admiral Lisa Rodriguez commanded from the bridge of the warship Defiance. It was humanity's most advanced military vessel, built from decades of research and innovation. Compared to the alien ships that had taken Aurora, it was a toy. "Status report," Lisa said. "We have 43 combat vessels in position," her tactical officer replied. "Another 112 support ships. Every nation on Earth has contributed. This is the largest unified fleet in human history." "It will not be enough," Lisa said quietly. "No, ma'am. Intelligence estimates the Council could send thousands of ships, each one more powerful than our entire fleet combined." Lisa looked out at the stars and thought about the prophecy. Beings from 4 billion years ago had predicted this moment. They had seen humanity coming. But had they seen everything? "We do not need to win," Lisa said. "We just need to survive long enough to find another way." Back on the Council station, Ambassador Thelnara made a decision that would change everything. She waited until the station's night cycle, when most species were in their rest periods. Then she moved the corridors like liquid silver, silent and unseen. She reached the human holding area and paused at the energy wall. Elena was awake, sitting alone while her crew slept. The human captain looked up in surprise. "You should not be here," Elena said quietly. "No, I should not," Thelnara agreed. Her voice was like wind chimes in a soft breeze. "But I find myself doing many things I should not do lately. The humans seem to have infected me with their recklessness." Elena stood and approached the wall. "Why are you here?" "To tell you about the Quilvin. To tell you why your words in the council chamber affected me so deeply." Thelnara's form rippled with memory. 10 million years ago, my people were warriors. We conquered 17 star systems through strength and courage. We believed that power was the ultimate truth. Then we encountered a species called the Vorn. They were pacifists. They had no weapons, no defenses. They believed all life was sacred. "What happened?" Elena asked. "We destroyed them, easily, completely, and in the moment of our greatest victory, we realized we had become monsters. We had taken something beautiful from the universe and turned it to ash. So we made a choice. We abandoned war. We destroyed our weapons. We dedicated ourselves to peace and meditation. For 10 million years, we have never raised a hand in violence." "That sounds noble." It sounds cowardly, Delnara said. There was pain in her voice. We did not choose peace because we believed it was right. We chose it because we were afraid of what we had become. We have spent 10 million years running from our past. And then you stood before the council and refused to run from anything. You reminded me what courage looks like. Elena pressed her hand against the energy wall. What are you saying? I am saying that I will help you. The council will send a containment fleet to Earth within 20 cycles. They will blockade your world and wait for you to surrender or die. But there is another way. The eternal archive where the prophecy was found is on a dead world called Kethros. If you could reach it, you might find answers. The Forerunners left more than just warnings. They left knowledge. How will we even get there? Delnara's form shifted, and she produced a small device that glowed with soft blue light. This is a quantum key. It will disable the energy wall for exactly 30 seconds. You and your crew will have that long to reach the docking bay where your ship waits. I have programmed the coordinates to Kethros into your navigation system. Why are you doing this? Because the prophecy said you would remind the old ones why life is worth living. I want to remember. I want to feel something besides the cold comfort of safety. Thelnara placed a device near the wall. You have one chance. Do not waste it. The Quilvan ambassador disappeared into the shadows. Elena woke her crew and explained quickly. When the energy wall flickered and died 30 seconds later, they ran. The corridors of the council station were amazed, but Elena trusted her instincts. They took turns that felt right and avoided areas where they sensed danger. Twice they had to hide from patrol drones. Once they nearly ran into a group of Brevik's collective members discussing maintenance schedules. Finally, they reached the docking bay. Aurora sat exactly where they had left her. The ship looked small and fragile, surrounded by alien vessels that dwarfed her size. Go! 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 Elena shouted. They sprinted across the bay and up the loading ramp. Sarah headed straight for engineering. James went to navigation. Marcus and Tommy took their stations. Elena threw herself into the captain's chair and began the launch sequence. Alarms started blaring. The station's defense systems had detected their escape. Energy weapons began charging. The bay doors started to close. Sarah, I need engines now. Working on it, Captain. The Aurora's engines roared to life. Elena did not wait for clearance or safety checks. She pushed the throttle forward, and the ship shot toward the closing bay doors like a bullet from a gun. They passed through with less than 2 meters of clearance on either side. Pieces of the ship's hull scraped against the doors and left trails of sparks. Then they were out in open space with the council station falling away behind them. They're launching pursuit ships, James reported. How many? 20. No, 30. Captain, we cannot outrun that many. Elena looked at the navigation console where Thelnara had programmed the coordinates to Kethros. It was 3 light years away. With Aurora's conventional engines, the journey would take decades. But the coordinates included something else. A route through folded space. A shortcut that should not be possible for a human ship. James, engage the course Thelnara gave us. Do not ask questions. Just do it. Captain, this route goes through a region marked as unstable space. If we enter that area, we could be torn apart. And if we stay here, we will definitely be torn apart. I will take Cutover definitely any day. Engage. James entered the coordinates. The space ahead of Aurora began to shimmer and fold. A tunnel opened in reality itself. Elena could see colors that had no name swirling in the void. All hands, brace for whatever comes next. The Aurora dove into the tunnel. The ship shook violently. Alarm screamed. The hull groaned. Under stress, it was never designed to handle. Elena watched the structural integrity readings drop toward critical levels. Then suddenly they were through. The tunnel collapsed behind them, and they emerged in normal space near a gray, dead world that had not seen sunlight in billions of years. Status report. Elena said. Her hands were shaking. We made it, Sarah said. She sounded shocked. Hull integrity at 40%. Engines damaged but functional. Life support stable. Captain, we should not have survived that. Added to the list of things we were not supposed to survive, Elena said. She looked at the dead world ahead. That is Kethros. That is where we find the truth about the prophecy. Marcus stared at his console in wonder. The Council pursuit ships did not follow us through the tunnel. They stopped at the edge and turned back. Why? Tommy asked. Because they have rules, Elena said. They have procedures. They would never risk their ships on an unstable route, even to capture escaped prisoners. But we did. We took the impossible chance. She stood and looked at her crew. That is what the Forerunners saw. That is why they wrote about us. We do not accept limits. We do not follow rules that do not make sense. We try things that should not work. And sometimes, impossibly, they do. The Aurora descended toward Kethros. Somewhere behind them, the Council was preparing for war. But here, on this ancient dead world, humanity would find answers that had waited for a billion years. The eternal archive rose in the gray dust like a monument to time itself. Its walls were black stone that seemed to drink all light. Elena and her crew stood before the entrance and felt the weight of ages pressing down on them. Whatever we find in there, Elena said, it changes everything. They walked into the darkness, and the prophecy waited to reveal its final truth.